Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I want to talk about a real estate investing concept called house hacking, and it's become very popular.
You know what to say, you gotta say it with me. Bus driver, move that bus!
But technically it's been around since the inception of real estate. Thousands of years people have been doing this, but in today's modern age, there are proven and tried and true methods to having success in house hacking. And effectively, if you do it correctly, you are able to reduce or subsidize your cost of living, which is a really, really cool concept given how expensive things are today. So quick definition, what is house hacking? The basic definition is that you are using your house, your square footage, whatever you have, to effectively generate an income. And in doing so, you're lowering your cost of ownership because you are taking in some form of income by renting your property or a piece of your property to somebody else. And I like to think of it more of in terms of being in a state of mind that, hey, I'm thinking about renting this property, whether I'm doing it right now or I'm preparing to make my current residence a rental property in the future. And I'm doing things, which we'll talk about, to improve the property and tenant proof it and future proof it so that I have it ready for rentership in the near future. All right, so let's dive in and talk about proven methods for house hacking. What have people been doing? What is house hacking and how can they achieve it? How can you, as an early real estate investor, get into house hacking and find success? And I've broken this video into two parts. Let's talk about some methodologies and some quick wins regarding getting into house hacking and finding success there. And then in the second half of this video, let's talk about the financials and why it makes sense and why this concept is so popular in general. So let's get to it. And again, I want to be really clear when I talk about getting into house hacking, you're not actually doing anything in terms of filling out a form. It's just a methodology to subsidize your income. And you're thinking about a process to level out your cost of living using what you already own to rent it out to people. So it's not that complicated. You are just putting a frame of mind in place and looking to rent your current property.
You don't have to raise your voice. I can give you half.
All right, so number one, let's talk about one of the easiest methods for house hacking. And this is if you own a single family home, or maybe you're looking to purchase a single family home and you want to get your gears turning and to see if these things could make sense because you have this mindset of wanting to rent a room out potentially, or maybe there's an unfinished basement and you can finish it and contract that out and get a kitchen in there and a bathroom. And obviously that's going to take some money, and we'll talk about the financials, but these are ways to utilize the square footage in your current home. Maybe you have a mother-in-law suite that's not really being used and you could rent that out and subsidize your cost of living. So these are things to think about as you look to buy a property. And number two, this is one of the most popular. It's so talked about online and on social media. It's actually what I did a few years ago, which is purchasing a duplex or a triplex or maybe even a quad, or potentially even a larger multifamily complex if it's possible. But this concept of buying a duplex and living in one unit and then renting out the other one is incredibly successful. And we'll talk about the financials, but you can almost live for free in doing that. And what's cool about being on site with a duplex situation is you can continually improve the property, and maybe the tenant allows you to go in and fix things for them. And I went in and I did accent walls and I did a nice stone backsplash, and I was able to, on various weekends with permission of the tenant, go in and force appreciation and make improvements. And you can do things outside, you can do the landscaping, and all these things are available to you because you're the property owner and you're living there, but you're also getting a rent check from the person in the unit next to you, which is a really, really cool concept. Now, thirdly, a really popular house hacking method is building on your existing property or potentially converting an existing freestanding structure like a unused garage or something into an additional dwelling unit, or building an ADU from the ground up. But keep in mind, this could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. You need contractors involved. You need the city involved to make sure everything's up to code, or it won't count as part of your square footage when you go to sell the property, and you can get into huge issues. You have to tear it down potentially or pay huge fines. So keep that in mind. But in the future, it could be a very cool strategy because you have this additional building on site that you could rent out and cash flow really well. But I also do not recommend taking out a HELOC or a second mortgage on these types of projects, because as we've seen, interest rates are crazy high, and some people that started building ADUs 3 years ago during the pandemic are now potentially paying triple their interest rate, which really sucks. So keep that in mind. The first two strategies of renting a room or potentially buying a multifamily property are generally more economical. So now that we've talked about some popular house hacking methods, let's dive into the fun part, which is the financials behind house hacking. And when you start to get your gears turning on the math behind house hacking, that's where it gets really exciting, and you can see why it is such a cool acceleration method for the early, intermediate, or advanced real estate investor. So let's talk about the first example that I use in the video, which is renting a spare bedroom out of your house. Let's say you have a single family home and your mortgage is $2,000 a month, and you are able to list this furnished room for $500 a month. So congratulations, you've just reduced your cost of living by 25%. You went from $2,000 a month to $1,500 a month, which is huge. So effectively, you have successfully hacked your house because you're now earning an income on something you already own in terms of your real estate investment. So the duplex and triplex example that we talked about secondly, this one is so cool because let's say you have a $2,000 mortgage and you're renting out the unit next door for $1,500. And that one is incredible because you've just reduced your cost of living by 75%. You're only gonna be paying that remainder of $500 to the mortgage each month, which is phenomenal. Imagine being able to play with an additional $1,500 a month. And let's say the triplex example, again, these are harder to find, triplex and quads in good shape, where you can fix them up quickly and rent. There's not many of them on the market in 2023 right now, so keep it in mind. But let's say that same mortgage is $2,000 a month and you're renting each unit, both of them, for $1,500 each. That's $3,000 in income, and you're cash flowing $1,000, which is an incredible situation. You're not only living for free, but you're making a profit net of $1,000 a month, which is an incredible situation. And you can see why this is a huge accelerator, as I mentioned, because then you take that $1,000 and you stack it, and then you're able to buy another property even faster in the future.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you, sir.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
And lastly, our ADU example. This one is gonna be the most expensive up front and the most time consuming, but if you do it right, it will effectively pay for itself possibly within a few years, because the profit from that rent is immediate once you get a tenant in there, which is a really exciting concept. So let's say none of these options that I went through, renting a room, buying a multifamily property, building an addition, let's say none of that is on the table. There's just absolutely no way that you can afford it, which is basically the situation that most Americans are in right now. But everyone wants to get into real estate. So what do I do? And basically that's that mindset that I talked about at the top of the video, where you're effectively using your single family home, or you're gonna purchase a single family home to hack it in quotations. And what I mean by that is you're doing the things that you would do to get it ready, with that mindset shifting to, hey, I'm gonna make this a rental property in the near future. Could be 6 months down the line, or it might be 6 years down the line, as you focus on getting your finances in order, paying down that mortgage, so that you can get to a spot where it makes sense to have that property be a rental and then take on another property. And I talked about this concept in a previous video, which is how to tenant proof your rental property. And you're gonna be doing things that are, again, in that mindset of, I'm gonna do things that are gonna attract the right level of tenant for me. These aren't things that necessarily I wanna do to my house, but they're things that I know that are gonna be appealing to a potential family or couple or single man or woman who's gonna wanna rent my house in the future. And that's, basic things like making sure that you have new appliances and that they're all in working order, and that you have a nice color palette around the house, and you have some curb appeal, approaching the street. So when people come and tour, they can see themselves living there and having it be their home. So these are things that you want to do to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success as you live in the house currently, but you're setting up yourself for tenants in the future. And that is my version of house hacking so that you can get ready to participate in rentership in the near future. And when you adopt this house hacking mentality, keep in mind that the goal is to continually improve the property, the interior, the exterior, put a new roof on it, keep up with maintenance, make sure that you're doing all these things in an effort to attract the right tenant. And talk to any local landlord and ask them how important it is to find the right tenant for their property. And when you find that right tenant, they're gonna be able to pay the right amount of rent. And then overall, you're gonna be continually reducing your cost of living, hopefully to zero, and then have that long-term profit as well, which is super exciting, the whole goal of house hacking and what we're talking about in this video. So I really hope that you guys found it helpful. And until the next real estate video, I'll see you later.